All right, Abusia, your former finance minister Ken Ofori Atta, Abusia, Sisi Abeno, Kasama, Neboni, Echemu, HSA. Ken Ofori Atta, Atumi, Asiki, a permanent, a resident, a year USA. Now, we a year political analyst back on about mountain, or Cheney Simwa. Sa green card na Ken Ofori Atta, Ukrano, a yadia, Otoye. Yes, or yadia, just say Otoye, anti. Enyadia Ken Ofori Atta. It's just a yen to me extradited a year Ken Ofori Atta Emma a year of my Ganam. Nabusia and the wedding common were exposed in 7 and somewhere. And a day where ye a dear piano, what's ya? William Ebesho. Ken Ofori Atta, Abusia, Bonnet Bang, BM and a Ken Ofori Atta a dinner this time. And I send Sembe and a to me appear a bar. Ken Ofori Atta Nadine a womb. I just say. Ken Ofori Atta, in fact, a former finance minister, under the administration of our former president, Nana Akufo-Addo. In fact, Ken Ofori Atta, Abusia, it is alleged, say, we did bonne and kasa. With the woman and command, a course so MRCC, I best say, obey subscribe at the Amabo notification bonus of one podcast update. Ha, and that's why I bear media G.
Lawyer Alasan Suhini din Komobise. Ken Ofori Atta, a more specialized course of what to handle those criminal cases and all that. And what is extradition request na yedikon. Do your man permanent residency. Now, Ochema, a year permanent residency green carded man. Ofori Atta toy. Now, to an interest when the extradition is successful omba. No, which is say extradition is successful. Ken Ofori Atta bebagan. But Ken Ofori Atta the BBL or the top because of financially stable. Intin or tall or more residency alleged or tall or more permanent residency or US because ube to me ato. But enko TS posa no drop it. Elma ube trim say and sema lawyer justice minka premo edeba no. Echem say or more fanny no BCC in a year charges and as a extradition on the buyer no. A force nasa justice in the plan were subject to a investigation. They were quite more details. Should you made in like a deliberative.
Yes, you see the confusion and deception. The court's decision was focused on whether Mr. Ofori Atta met the legal requirement for adjustment of status. So where from the criminal charges? If it was focused on this, where from the criminal charges? And you see, Uncle, I understand what he was trying to do. Smartly do, but unfortunately, the letter manifests him in ways that ought not to be, considering his stature as far as the legal fraternity is concerned. But remember, Mr. Pratt made references to the fact that even those days, people said all kinds of things about Ghana, and they were awarded or they were given permission to stay in many of these countries. And that's why I indicated that it still happens up to date. It still happens. Because immigration courts do not look into criminal charges. When you fill your form and make allegations that, oh, nobody likes me, or they are persecuting me, they are doing what? They are doing what? They are doing what? Because of the presence of extradition laws, they will tell you, okay, they will look at other factors and take a decision. If you meet the requirements to be given permission to stay, they give it to you. It does not mean that they believe the story that nobody wants A, B, C, and D. In his case, his ties were financial and his son. You get a point. It was financial. It was bought. So he will be given. It had nothing to do with the criminal charges against him. In fact, if today the extradition is successful, he would be brought back to Ghana for trial. The fact that he has been given permanent residency does not mean that we have been in this country where people have been given visas to travel to the United States of America, and at the point of entry, they are returned back to Ghana. They are returned. Hasn't it happened? You think that even the grant of permanent residency cannot be withdrawn? After all, you would have paid all your financial commitments as far as that grant is concerned. They have nothing to lose if it is subsequently withdrawn. So that is not the end of the matter. And I listened to our friends in the MPP say that, oh yes, he's been politically persecuted, and thankfully, our embassies also act as important hotspots of information for their respective countries. And that is why I want to make this point, hoping that the ambassador of the United States of America, the UK and the likes are monitoring. Maybe there is a need for us to contextualize Ken Ofori Atta's issue. Nobody should live under the illusion that it was the NDC government that came after Ken Ofori Atta. Nobody. It was the NPP that somewhere in 2015 made campaign promises to the effect that they were going to set up an independent office of the special prosecutor, independent from the office of the Attorney General, to handle corruption-related offenses. Upon assumption of office, they set up that particular office, they equipped that office, and they appointed the commissioners of that office. The NDC had no role apart from supporting the bill to go through Parliament. Indeed, the current occupant of that office is a bosom associate of both Ken Ofori Atta and Gabi Ochiridako. No links or whatsoever with the National Democratic Congress. This government was communicated to upon assumption of office that the office was investigating the activities of Ken Ofori Atta upon receipt of petitions from award-winning international journalists like Manas Azuri Awune and Co. Where do you see the NDC in all that? Where? Tell me where. Where? So how can you say that there's political persecution? It was their own appointee, their own bosom associate and friend, who upon receipt of petitions, not from the likes of myself and Solo, who are politically exposed, but internationally celebrated Ghanaian investigative journalists. Journalists that the BBC have given awards. US institutions have offered scholarships to come and study because of their work. Journalists that the US considered for engagement as young African leaders and sponsored them to study in the United States of America. They filed such petitions against Ken Ofori Atta. And OSP started acting on them. The castle started with the office of the special prosecutor. What has government got to do with it? What has John Mama and the NDC got to do with this? The Attorney General only carried out a constitutional mandate that says that for extradition-related offenses, it is the AG who can make that request. Ally, Senna. So that tells you that minus that constitutional injunction, it would have been the OSP now making that request. So the NDC or any of his appointees wouldn't have had any issue to do with anything to do with Ken Ofori Atta matter. Then you refuse to come and account to the very institution in the Republic of Ghana that you set up. And all of a sudden, the institution you set up, you and your president, your cousin president set up to deal with matters of corruption is persecuting you politically. How? How? Have you heard President Mahama on this matter? How? So if you are afraid of the very institutions you set up to deal with corruption, do you expect any Ghanaian to subject himself to such institutions? In any case, hasn't Hanan faced the OSP and Ioko? Edu Buahin and the likes. Mustafa Hamid. Are they not MPP former functionaries? Are they not walking on the streets of Ghana freely? Who is after them? They are appearing in court like any responsible Ghanaian, answering to charges of corruption against them, believing that the court system is just. What is so special about Ken Ofori Atta? What makes him a superhuman being? That the NDC will be interested in persecuting you politically. What? For what? For what? Sometimes see, it beats my imagination. Why? And mind you, there are those who say that, look, I listen to, as if Mujibu was saying it, they can start the trial in absentia. Interesting. Huh?
I read from them.
That was a text, yes. You see, interestingly, those who even argue this way, then they don't even read to appreciate that that is the process that is ongoing. If you follow the OSP's case tracker, it is stated clearly. You don't just go to court and tell a judge that you are going to do trial in absentia. There's a process. And if you are familiar with how the courts work, and you read the case tracker, you know that that is the process the OSP is following. But it doesn't mean that because you are seeking for clearance to do trial in absentia, you should fold your arms and now wait till a verdict is given. Then you now start the whole process of looking for the accused to come and serve his sentence. You must do so concurrently. That is what responsibility is about. So once you are activating processes to ensure trial in absentia, you are also activating processes to ensure that in the likely event, and I'm using my words deliberately, in the likely event, not cautiously, deliberately, in the likely event, and I'll tell you why, that there's a conviction, the accused is brought in to face charges. Even in UK law, Solo, there's one fundamental assumption that the accused would have to rebel against when it comes to, and it's there in Ghana law when it comes to evidence. If your actions suggest that you are running away from justice, then the presumption is that you would have been guilty of the offense.
Please learn from it.
And from where I sit, it is clear that Ken Ofori Atta is running away from justice. And you see, when we have these discussions, they limit it to him alone. Oh, he's sick. He's treating himself. What about his aide de camp, who is also at large? They say chef de cabinet, right? That strange titles. Where is that man? He's also at large. So it was premeditated. He knew what he was doing. I don't know. But I would be surprised if his properties are not confiscated in this country. I don't know whether that has been done or not. But if it has not been done, the OSP must move swiftly to ensure that. That's one. Wherever he has a business interest, the government or the OSP must move in swiftly. Because he cannot be abroad and continue to benefit from the very system he has vowed not to avail himself to for accountability.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was not where I intended to land, but I'll allow it because of time. Our democratic journey so far, though that discussion would have been aroused by the singular act of Ken Ofori Atta, former finance minister of the Republic of Ghana. But you see, allow this, and I'm going to deal with it in two ways. First, I will seek to expose the hypocrisy on the part of his lawyers as far as the current development is concerned. And secondly, I will deal with the political questions arising from this latest decision. First of all, I think that anybody familiar with the laws of extradition, especially as it relates to how it works in the United States of America, will tell you that the decision to extradite is purely a political decision by the Secretary of State, not even the courts of the United States of America. And that's the mistake most people make. And permit me to take you through the processes a little. In the United States of America, if they receive an extradition request, that extradition request is referred to a court in the United States of America, mandated with jurisdiction to look into the legality or otherwise of the request. So, for example, if Ghana presents an extradition request of Ken Ofori Atta, it is referred to an extradition court. The court will look into the legality or otherwise of our request. So at that critical moment, what the U.S. court seeks to do is to look at the packet presented by Ghana and ascertain whether indeed it is in line with extradition laws and that of the United States of America. If that determination is made to the effect that, look, this satisfies or ticks all the boxes as far as extradition is concerned, the judge forwards same to the Secretary of State, who now looks at the court's ruling and determine whether or not extradition would be in line with fundamental human rights of the person being sought. Or Ghana would have done something untoward, for which reason extradition can be defended, refusal to extradite can be defended by the United States of America. So it is not enough for the court to say that, look, Ghana has ticked all the boxes. The rest of the decision by the Secretary of State or his rep is one rooted in politics. That point ought to be made. Secondly, now, in our case, the Attorney General was clear. When he received the docket or the pack from the Office of the Special Prosecutor, he proceeded to act by making the extradition request because the Constitution empowers the AG to do so. Upon doing so, the document was forwarded to the United States Department of Justice, and they also carried out what they needed to do. So when the Attorney General granted an interview, especially after he was picked up by ICE, and made references to the effect that Ghana's extradition request could have influenced the ICE arrest, he was not wrong. And I'll demonstrate to you why he was not wrong. When you are resident either in the UK or US unlawfully, it takes certain things to flag your presence in the system for you to be sought after. So naturally, if the US receives an extradition request from Ghana about Ken Ofori Atta, and they enter Ken Ofori Atta into the system to know whether he's actually in the system, and they realize that this is a gentleman who actually is in the US but exceeded his stay, their internal immigration laws kicks in, because they would have prompted ICE to activate internal immigration rules. So though that is not part of the extradition, but your request for the extradition acted as a prompt as far as his presence in your country and unlawful presence is concerned. And that was what happened in the case of Ken Ofori Atta. Because the system flagged that he had exceeded his stay. So ICE went for him. Now what happened with ICE to the immigration courts are not in any way related to Ghana's extradition request. Because there are specific courts mandated to handle extradition, not just immigration courts. Immigration court has no business or whatsoever handling immigration. So the decision by his legal counsel, Justice Menka Primo, to issue a statement and sought to create an impression that the immigration court that finally granted him residency in the United States felt that there was no merit in Ghana's criminal charges was disingenuous. And in fact, we need to expose. It is interesting to note, Sana, that even Justice Menka Primo himself is a subject of investigation in relation to PDS. So one can understand where this politics is coming from. That is being mixed with the law. And listen to his own contradiction in relation to the letter he authored. He says, let me pick it. They say, the court had evidence relating, okay, brilliant. The court had evidence relating to actions taken by Ghana's Office of the Special Prosecutor, including the OSP's earlier decision to declare Mr. Ofori Atta a fugitive from justice, at a time when he was reportedly undergoing medical treatment in the United States and while his lawyers remain in communication with investigators in Ghana. Are you following? It proceeds. The court finds the criminal charges in Ghana not credible. What demonstration of mischief is this? No immigration court in the United States of America has the jurisdiction to entertain, to deal with criminal charges. There are specialized courts for those crimes. So, on what basis is Justice Minka Primo saying that the court finds the criminal charges in Ghana not credible? Was Ghana represented in that immigration court against Ken Ofori Atta? He should give us the name of the lawyer who represented Ghana as far as that case is concerned. And you think that if the criminal charges were up for trial, there wouldn't have been representation on the part of Ghana. In any case, no court in the United States of America has jurisdiction to entertain these criminal charges, except Ghanaian courts. So where from this mischief? Distortion of facts. Then it proceeds. However, the court's ruling was made with the context of the United States immigration proceedings.